Hey, this is Stu Schaefer, and I'm about to explain exactly what my client did to finally lose her menopause weight. She had tried for years and years and years. She had been doing all sorts of activity, doing mini triathlons, bike riding, classes, trying to get the stubborn weight off, and it wouldn't go. It kept getting worse and worse, and in a matter of just a few months, we were able to get her body to burn off fat and shift it into a fat burning state so she could keep that weight off forever and ever and ever and ever. And it was the easiest thing she had ever done. Now, obviously I'm a man, so what am I doing talking about women in menopause weight loss? Well, I've been working with women over 50 for the last 25 years, helping them lose weight in perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. And I've worked with thousands of women all over the world. Your bodies are different. They require different things. We're going to go over the 5 things that this woman did that allowed her to be so successful. And you can do these things right now. You don't have to be special. So let's jump right in. Let's talk about the very first thing we did. My client was only eating twice a day. She was busy, she's a professional, and she thought, hey, time-restricted eating, intermittent fasting, I hear this is good, so I might as well just do that. I'm busy anyway. I can go all morning without eating. I don't get hungry. I don't notice it. And that's what she was doing. This is one of the worst things you can do if you're a woman in menopause. I know this is so trendy right now, but if this was 1992, the trend would be don't eat any fat, eat lots and lots of carbohydrates. You have to take the trends for what they are. And every time there's a trend, there's always the science, and people are certain this is how it should be. And it's not. I've been doing this for 2 decades. Time-restricted eating, intermittent fasting is not good for menopause weight loss. It sets your body up to fail, and it damages your metabolism. This is what was happening with my client. We switched her from 2 meals to 4 meals per day. 2 meals to 4 meals. Now, the meal size did not get smaller, by the way. The 2 meals she was eating, we literally doubled her food. She was eating twice as much, which every expert will tell you, hey, wait, that doesn't make sense. Twice as many calories. No, you're lying. That's not possible for her to lose weight. It is, because when you understand how the body works, when you know how to eat correctly to cause the correct chemical reactions in your body, then you don't have to restrict foods. And this was exactly right with my client. Now, one of the things in menopause that happens is that your body becomes hypersensitive to stress, and your body really needs key vitamins and minerals and nutrients to be able to function properly, to balance your own hormones, to lower the cortisol, and to make sure that you build muscle and burn fat. And this is what happened with my client. When we increased her food, obviously she panicked. This is a normal response. She was a bit scared. But as soon as she started seeing that she was losing weight, she was okay with it. Well, now she was never hungry. She had no cravings. Her energy doubled. And she was able to finally burn off the belly fat. Most of my clients are eating somewhere between 4 or 5 meals per day. Usually that depends on their schedule. But it's very difficult to eat correctly in less than 4 meals a day. Because what ends up happening is it throws off the amount that you're eating at each meal, the combination of foods that you can put in each meal, and it's much harder on the body. So first thing, we increased her meals from 2 meals a day to 4 meals a day. Let's look at the second thing we did. And again, these are going to be very counterintuitive. We cut out resistant starches. This is another thing that's all the rage. Oh, resistant starches are amazing. Oh, they're wonderful. Now, if you don't know what resistant starches are, these would include things like beans, lentils. If you cook, say, a starch like a sweet potato or pasta or things like rice, and then you refrigerate them overnight, and then you eat leftovers and reheat them during the day, they would be considered a resistant starch. What happens when you cook it, refrigerate it, and then reheat it is it kind of changes the bonds of how the starch molecules, the glucose molecules, are bonded together. And it makes it resistant. Now, what does resistant mean? It means it's harder to digest. Now, the reason so many people are hot to trot on resistant starches is because it doesn't cause as big of a blood sugar spike. So they're saying, oh, if you eat beans, if you eat lentils, if you eat these resistant starches like I just described, that won't spike your blood sugar. Now, that part's true. But here's something you have to remember. If it were as simple as just controlling blood sugar, no one would be overweight. If it was as simple as calories, no one would be overweight. Your body is so much more complex than that. And there are definite costs involved with having resistant starches. And let me explain what they are. The reason it doesn't spike your blood sugar as much is because it doesn't digest very well. If you're eating resistant starches and they're not digesting quickly, what happens is, here's a crash course on digestion. You eat the food, you chew it in your mouth. There's certain enzymes in your saliva that start breaking down certain foods. Then you swallow it, goes into your stomach. Your stomach acid continues to break down the foods into a sludge. Then it goes into your small intestine. This is where your digestive enzymes live. And the digestive enzymes continue breaking down the food further. And they'll release some of that broken down food from the small intestine into the bloodstream. Now, if it's not getting digested all the way in the small intestine, it'll keep going until it gets to the large intestine, and it passes through the liver, and your gallbladder will produce something called bile, which helps break down fats. Here's the problem. When the food is reaching your large intestine, especially starches, these types of foods feed bacteria and fungus, things like candida, which live in the large intestine, your colon. It's just like where you're going to be pooping out and everything. These types of critters are normal, but they're not supposed to be anywhere else other than the large intestine. So two things happen when you eat resistant starches and you're not digesting. One, it feeds the critters. So now there's a high chance of them overgrowing up into the small intestine. This is something called small intestinal bacteria overgrowth or candida overgrowth. This is bad. The other thing that can happen is when this food is coming into the large intestine, these critters have a feeding frenzy. So they multiply and then they die. And you get extra endotoxins that come off of this massive surge of growth and then dying. And this can affect your gut health. It can release these endotoxins which affect your serotonin and your digestion and your thyroid and all these other things. So even though eating a resistant starch might be more beneficial for blood sugar, all these other complications can occur. And this is exactly what was going on with my client. And she had all this inflammation and some gut issues and some digestive distress because she had read that resistant starches were good and she was eating too many of them. So we cut out the resistant starches and she started losing weight. Let's look at the third thing we did. We increased her carbohydrates. What? Again, this is so counterintuitive. Yes, she wasn't eating enough carbohydrates. So imagine this. This poor woman, and this is what I see with a lot of my clients, was doing all this exercise, trying to burn more calories and restricting carbs at the same time. Well, what you don't know, so everyone says, oh, do this low carb, do this keto, do this carnivore. This, again, is not good for women in menopause. Remember, your bodies in menopause are hypersensitive to stress. The amount of stress your body can tolerate goes significantly down. So, when you don't eat enough carbs, you're not putting in enough energy and fuel for the normal stresses, your job, your taking care of the family, your exercise, your day-to-day activities, your emotional stress, all these things. And same with this client. My client was not eating enough carbs to sustain her lifestyle. So this was cranking up her stress. This was causing irritability, high adrenaline, high cortisol. This was wreaking havoc with her hormones. It was causing inflammation in the body, which was short-circuiting the fat loss process. So when we increased the carbs, lo and behold, she was convinced she was going to gain weight. it had the opposite effect. She actually started burning off body fat, her energy went up, her cortisol went down, her sleep improved, and other things leveled out. Her performance in the gym, her ability to think improved, so many things. Now, when I say carbs, I'm not talking about vegetables, because this is another big misconception. A lot of experts say, oh yeah, I'm eating carbs. I'm eating broccoli, and I'm eating cauliflower, and I'm eating zucchini, and I'm eating lettuce. And those aren't carbs. Those are vegetables. I'm talking about rice. I'm talking about bread. I'm talking about fruit. I'm talking about potatoes, sweet potatoes, peas, corn, the good stuff, the real carbs, legit. Those are the types of carbs I'm talking about, but not resistant starches, or not as many resistant starches. So we increase the carbs, and you ought to be doing that. I have never had a client who is eating too many carbs. Now, they may have been under eating in other areas, but it's actually hard to eat too many carbs. Well, I take that back. I guess you could eat sugar, but most of my clients, they're already eating healthy. They're not eating sugar and processed pixie sticks and pies and stuff like that. They're trying to eat healthy, but they're not getting enough carbs because they keep reading everywhere you shouldn't have carbs. Not in menopause. All right, let's look at the fourth thing we did. We lowered the duration and intensity of her exercise. Again, I told you she was doing these like triathlons, biking, swimming, weightlifting. And a lot of women do this. They'll sign up for these types of events because that's kind of the fuel, the motivation to get them to do that, because it's brutal. It's hard. They're trying to get all this exercise in, and so they have to find a way to motivate themselves because they're doing way too much. And this client was no different. So we actually lowered the duration, scaled way back on the exercise, and massively lowered the intensity, to the point where my client was pushing back a little bit and saying, I don't even think, it doesn't even feel like I'm doing anything. Like, are you sure? Are you sure this is going to work, Stu? Because I'm like not even breaking in a sweat. Again, this is a common myth. A lot of women think they've got to really sweat and work hard and pummel themselves to get any benefit from the exercise. That's not true. You don't have to do that. That can actually be counterproductive. And so when we lowered the duration, lowered the intensity, made it much more easy, she actually started burning fat. And again, this is so much better because now you have way more energy. It's not sucking you dry. You don't have to carve out all this extra time during the day. You have way more free time. Your productivity goes up. The time you can spend with your family goes up. It's amazing. You can actually have fun in life again. How about that? Okay, now the last thing we did, number 5, was we modified her weight training. We strategically put together the correct types of exercise, the correct sets, reps, the correct type of weight. Now, the weight is relative because as you get stronger, you need more weight. But what I mean when I say this is my client here was doing just like the weight training classes, like body pump, boot camp kind of things, as her resistance training. That's not really very effective. Especially when you're a woman in menopause, oftentimes those types of classes end up being too stressful and they don't target the muscles correctly. What we did instead was had more of a precision or precise approach where everything she was doing for the weights, and she just did it at home, you don't need to go to a gym, you don't need any fancy equipment, was targeted to sculpt the muscles, to increase the muscle density so that she looked leaner, more toned, so that her metabolism sped up. And the other thing that happens when you do this correctly is you become more insulin sensitive. Your muscles can actually use carbohydrates and insulin more, which then prevents you from ever storing fat. So now when you eat food, it goes to the muscles. The muscles can use it. It doesn't go to the fat cells. What you're doing essentially is turning your body into a fat burning machine. And you're also turning back the clock. And this is vital when you're in menopause. If you can do the right type of resistance training and get your muscles to kind of wake up, Now what happens is it produces an anti-aging result. It makes you look tight and toned instead of soft and flabby when you lose the weight. It increases your metabolism. It increases your insulin sensitivity. It causes your body to secrete certain hormones, which will actually help your hair, skin, and nails, will help you look younger. It increases your balance, your strength. It helps with your connective tissue. And all of these factors are vital as you get older. If you can get ahead of it, what's going to happen is you're not only going to look better for way longer, but you're going to be healthy and have a much better quality of life and much higher level of functionality as you get older. These are the things that her and I did that finally she could lose the menopause weight that she had been trying for years to lose without any success, and it was way easier. So I'm going to splash up 2 video lessons right now. I want you to go ahead and check these videos out. We're going to talk a little bit about food, a little bit about hormones, and they're going to be awesome lessons. Also, if you look at the description here in this video, you'll see some great links to some free resources we have over at my website. Check those out too. And I'll see you over there. All right, I hope this was helpful. Take care.